Sports Broadcast Solutions is a broadcasting network for everyone. Let SBS broadcast your sporting event. We have experience and can generate excitement and permanent digital memories for your team.
Tonight, that time, finally a goal for the Stampede!
We have professional videographers using high-definition modern-day cameras, color analysts, and play-by-play announcers with state-of-the-art, classy graphical scoreboards to keep you updated. Plus, we have commercials to advertise your team, club, or sponsor, and us. Plus, we do pregame and postgame interviews.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the postgame show brought to you by Marion Central Catholic. My name's Kyle Smith, but my name doesn't matter. These young ladies matter. It's senior night as the Hurricanes win a battle down the stretch, 48-46.
Hi, I'm Carrie Kramer. I swim 50 breast, 50 free, and 100 back.
Whatever your sports broadcast needs, we are at sportsbroadcastsolutions.com. Check us out and become part of the digital sporting world. This is Sports Broadcast Solutions, a broadcasting network for everyone. Check us out at sportsbroadcastsolutions.com and become part of the digital sporting world. Sports Broadcast Solutions is a broadcasting network for everyone. For those of you who would like to broadcast or live stream your event, or maybe make a highlight tape, but would like a sponsor to fund the event, SBS has a myriad of ways to advertise your sponsor during our broadcasts. We have commercials. We have on-air reads by the announcers.
Albatross Physical Therapy and Wellness specializes in pain-free.
We have graphics. And we have watermarks. Finally, Sports Broadcast Solutions can create a commercial for you or your sponsor. Whatever your sports broadcast needs, we are at sportsbroadcastsolutions.com. Check us out and become part of the digital sporting world.
Missing your child's sporting event just plain stinks. But you don't have to worry about that anymore, thanks to Sports Broadcast Solutions. SBS is a live broadcasting network, as well as covering your on-demand needs, recruiting videos, highlight reels, and much, much more. We can broadcast live to any website, and we also post as much on-demand content as you need. For more information about SBS, check out our website at sportsbroadcastsolutions.com. Sports Broadcast Solutions, a broadcasting network for everyone.
Sports Broadcast Solutions is a broadcasting network for everyone. At SBS, we offer a professional broadcasting experience for the non-professional athlete. Just like the pros, we offer everything for you. Play-by-play commentary.
A no-hitter at Kane County Stadium. 15 strikeouts, 1 walk, 1 error, and that's it.
Color commentary, highlight reels, recruiting videos, and much, much more. Unlike our competitors, we zoom in on the action and always have a live scoreboard with a live time code. If you're ready to have your next sporting event feel like CBS Sports, then make sure to call Sports Broadcast Solutions today. Our phone number is 330-957-7653, or you can go online to sportsbroadcastsolutions.com. SBS, a broadcasting network for everyone.
Sports Broadcast Solutions is a broadcasting network for everyone. We broadcast sporting events for people of all ages, including adult leagues, high school leagues, and kids. Complete with professional-looking graphics, broadcasters, color analysis, and commercials. We do pre- and post-game interviews with the players. In addition, Sports Broadcast Solutions does highlight films, including college recruiting reels, highlight films you'd see on sports news programs, and just simply highlight films for fun. Sports Broadcast Solutions also provides raw footage and live streams if you'd like. Subscribe to us and listen to our professional talk videos about relevant topics in the pro and college ranks. Whatever your sports broadcast needs, contact us at sportsbroadcastsolutions.com and become part of the digital world. Sports Broadcast Solutions is a broadcasting network for everyone. For those of you that just want raw footage of your sporting event, but no play-by-play or color commentary, you just need us to live stream video from the event over the internet. We will live stream your event on YouTube on our Sports Broadcast Solutions channel. In addition, we also have a dedicated channel on YouTube for live streaming at SBS Livestream. And if you need multiple channels, we can utilize Facebook Livestream and Instagram Live on our channel as well. Options include commercials from your sponsors, professional scoreboard graphics are still available, and of course, yes, pre- and post-game interviews are available as an option if you want.
We've been working really hard this whole summer and stuff.
Whatever your sports broadcast needs, we are at sportsbroadcastsolutions.com. Check us out and become part of the digital sporting world. Sports Broadcast Solutions is a broadcasting network for everyone. Instead of spending hundreds or thousands with all these college recruiting sites, let us put together your college highlight reel. For just a fraction of your potential college scholarship and significantly less than these recruiting services, we got this. In addition, we put together highlight reels for teams, including high school, your club team, or travel team.
My teammate gave me a great pass, and I just took it. The other team slashed me, took the opportunity, saw where the goalie was weak, and I just shot it there.
Solon, O'Connor, and Marsh back on defense, and Marsh gets a blowout. We got a breakaway at 2-0. A shot, and a goal! So 3-3. The power play was officially over.
Whatever your sports broadcast needs, check us out at sportsbroadcastsolutions.com. Check us out and become part of the digital world.
Tools that we try to offer to them and outcomes something that is a mix of the religious studies curriculum that's grounded in the Catholic tradition, but also that's brought to life by their own experience and their own reflection and the questions that they have. And the students who we teach really do a wonderful job of actively engaging in that dynamic process.
Sports Broadcast Solutions is a broadcasting network for everyone. Let SBS broadcast your sporting event. We have experience and can generate excitement and permanent digital memories for your team.
Tonight. That time, finally a goal for the Stampede!
We have professional videographers using high-definition modern-day cameras, color analysts, and play-by-play announcers with state-of-the-art, classy graphical scoreboards to keep you updated. Plus, we have commercials to advertise your team, club, or sponsor, and us. Plus, we do pregame and postgame interviews.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the postgame show brought to you by Marion Central Catholic. My name's Kyle Smith. But my name doesn't matter. These young ladies matter. It's senior night as the Hurricanes win a battle down the stretch, 48-46.
Hi, I'm Carrie Kramer. I swim 50 breast, 50 free, and 100 back.
Whatever your sports broadcast needs, we are at sportsbroadcastsolutions.com. Check us out and become part of the digital sporting world.
And the tools that we try to offer to them and outcomes something that is a mix of the religious studies curriculum that's grounded in the Catholic tradition, but also that's brought to life by their own experience and their own reflection and the questions that they have. And the students who we teach really do a wonderful job of actively engaging in that dynamic process.
Sports marketing and branding agency, offering athlete management, brand management, and so much more. We are powered by experience, currently serving athletes in the WNBA, MLR, NFL, and college sports. We are looking to take on more clients. because everyone deserves a shot at their dream. Our goal is to help others by inspiring one person at a time. Level Up Branding was founded by Lauren, who was and still is an athlete. She understands the importance of being a well-rounded and built individual. It takes an athlete to know an athlete. We are built different. There is so much more to an athlete than what is seen on the field or the court. We make it a priority to understand our athletes. We want to know and understand our clients' values, motives, passions, and future goals. At Level Up Branding, we believe in helping others succeed. We believe in giving back. We believe in family. You are more than an athlete. Level Up Branding was founded based on the sheer passion of sports, community involvement, and the sense of belonging to a community. We were created from an athlete's innovative mindset and experience, and here to offer our services to like-minded athletes.
Hey, this is Sarah Greenfalk here of Psych Edge. Do you want to learn how to improve your performance, improve your confidence, improve your resilience? Coming this fall, Psych Edge is releasing 5 workshop classes that will give you the skills to accomplish your goals with increased confidence and resilience. This is your opportunity to learn all the main psychological pieces of mental training in one place, plus the process I've developed to build these skills. Go to my website, psychedge.club, and sign up for my monthly blog emails, which will include the updates on the class release.
It's June 9th, 2010. Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final is taking place between the Chicago Blackhawks and the Philadelphia Flyers. They'll still have to win at Game 7 in Chicago. It's a 3-3 tie in the first overtime, meaning this has been a moderate offensive explosion with some decent defense and goaltending squeeze in between this hockey contest. This is a huge game for Blackhawks fans, as their favorite hockey team has been a laughingstock in the Western Conference for most of the previous decade. For the Flyers, they're looking to bring back Stanley Cup glory to the city of brotherly love for the first time since the 1970s. To truly understand the importance of what happens next, we need to hit that left button on the VCR. In other words, we need to rewind. The Blackhawks are an overtime goal away from cementing their legacy in NHL history. But for a franchise who used to not even televise its home games, this seemed like a pipe dream even 5 years ago. Known for his severe cheapness, Blackhawks former owner Bill Wirtz decided to cancel all home broadcast agreements with network and cable television outlets in 1992. According to Wirtz and the Wirtz Corporation as a whole, home broadcasts were, quote, unfair to the team's season ticket holders, unquote. And as crazy as this decision was by Wirtz, fan attendance increased during the mid-1990s. Incredibly, without normal home broadcasts and overall television brand awareness about the team, the Hawks averaged over 19,300 fans during the mid-1990s at the United Center.
This is how it worked. WGN and other media outlets couldn't broadcast the Blackhawks games at the United Center. But if a national broadcasting network such as ESPN decided to telecast the game, a Blackhawk fan could purchase HawkVision, a subscription network worth $29.99 per month. Then you could watch the ESPN broadcast of Blackhawks vs. Red Wings at the United Center on normal cable television. It was pretty confusing, to be sure, and as you know, the internet wasn't big back then. If you were a big hockey fan and wanted to know about the Blackhawks, you either had to go to the game or wait for the hockey highlight on SportsCenter. Even then, hockey coverage wasn't big on ESPN, so it was in your best interest to purchase a ticket at the UC. So the fans kept supporting the Blackhawks even though they couldn't watch their favorite team on TV. However, the product on the ice wasn't so great. As if it were a curse from the hockey gods, the Hawks kept finding different ways to choke in the playoffs. An original six team, the Hawks were at one time the second most cursed original six franchise. The New York Rangers went titleless from 1940 until 1994, and the Hawks now find themselves in the same place as the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Maple Leafs and the Hawks have not hoisted Lord Stanley's Cup since the 1960s decade. For the Hawks, it's been even worse. They haven't won it all since 1961, and before that, Chicago went 23 years without hoisting the Cup. The Maple Leafs have been a borderline disaster since 1967, but at least the Leafs were a dynasty in the 60s. The Hawks were lucky to even win the 1961 Stanley Cup. So yeah, the Hawks have pretty much been mediocre or worse since 1961. However, there were moments when the franchise seemed destined for championship glory. The worst moment for Chicago hockey fans was the 1971 Stanley Cup Final against the hated Montreal Canadiens. Without air conditioning at Old Chicago Stadium, the Hawks were the home team during Game 7 of the Finals against the Canadiens. Jumping out to an early 2-0 lead, legendary netminder Tony Esposito couldn't stop Jacques Lamar's 60-foot-away snapshot, giving the Canadiens their first goal of the contest. Chicago Tribune writer Bob Verdi said there was a humid haze hung over the ice, but Esposito refused to blame the rink's lack of air conditioning on the soft goal he gave up. He had a point, since Lamar's shot was nearly from the center line. The Canadiens never looked back and scored twice more to upset the Hawks and win 3-2 on Chicago's home ice. Since then, the Hawks have never been closer to winning the Cup as they were that day in 1971. That is, until tonight anyway. As painful as it was in 1971, Hawks fans who were still alive in 1992 had to be devastated at what happened next to Ed Belfour and Dominik Hasek. Incredibly, Eddie the Eagle Belfour and Dominik the Dominator Hasek were both on the Blackhawks at the same time. Two future Hall of Fame goalies were both on the Hawks, and yet the franchise still couldn't win a Stanley Cup with either netminder. Belfour was the starter during the brief Belfour-Hasek years. The Hawks made the 1992 Stanley Cup championship round with Belfour and Hasek both on the roster. It was also a Chicago team with Chris Chelios leading the defenseman, and forward Jeremy Roenick was on this Hawks team as well. Led by captain Dirk Graham, the Hawks went on a very impressive winning streak in the playoffs. After falling to a 2-1 series deficit to the St. Louis Blues, the Hawks won their next 3 games against the Blues, as well as back-to-back series sweeps against the Detroit Red Wings and the Edmonton Oilers. Just like that, 11 consecutive victories saw the Blackhawks 4 wins away from ending up as the last team standing. The only team in their proverbial way, the NHL's version of the Super Mario Brothers, otherwise known as Mario Lemieux and Jaromir Jagr. The Pittsburgh Penguins were the defending Cup champions, and after narrowly beating the Washington Capitals in Game 7 during Round 1, the Pens found their way in the finals thanks to winning 8 of their last 10 games. Hasek was probably Chicago's better goalie entering the playoffs, as the Dominator earned all rookie honors and went 10-4-1 during his 15 starts between the pipes. Between a contract holdout from Belfour and Crazy Eddie missing games this season due to personal reasons, Hasek was turning into a fan favorite, while Belfour was the more controversial choice at net. However, head coach and general manager Mike Keenan stuck with Belfour throughout the playoffs. He turned out to be the best goaltender in the postseason, not named Tom Barrasso. The problem is Barrasso plays for Pittsburgh, so it was up to Roenick and company to find consistent offense against the Eastern Conference's best goalie. It looked like the Hawks had the Pens right where they wanted them when they took a 4-1 lead during Game 1. But the hockey gods haven't liked Chicago since 1961. Whenever the Hawks can blow a postseason lead during crunch time, they like to do it. The Pens scored 4 unanswered goals on their home ice, including the game winner with just 13 seconds left in OT. A crushing 5-4 loss for the Hawks, and they never rebounded from it. It was a sweep for the Pens as the Penguins celebrated their championship victory at Chicago Stadium. Hasek even showed during the series that he still had some raw rookie moments, but Belfour clearly wasn't himself. Hasek subbed in for Belfour in Game 4 after Eddie the Eagle gave up 2 goals on just 4 shots on goal.
Keenan had a tough decision to make between keeping Hasek and Belfour, but with Belfour 1 year removed from winning the Vezina and Williams M. Jennings trophies for best goalie, Keenan had no choice but to allow Hasek to become expendable. The Sabres then cashed in on the young goalie's athleticism by fleecing the Hawks with a terrible trade request. The Sabres received a future Hall of Famer in Hasek, and the Blackhawks received just future draft considerations and a goalie in Stefan Beauregard, who never played a single minute in the goalie crease. The future draft considerations eventually led to the Hawks drafting Eric Daze in the 4th round. Daze became an all-star left winger, but serious back and herniated disc issues saw the team's promising winger limited to just 74 games in 3 seasons after his all-star game appearance in 2002. He retired after playing just 1 game in 2005. That being said, Keenan didn't want there to be a locker room controversy between Hasek and Belfour, and it's easy to say in hindsight when no one knew how great Hasek would become. Unfortunately, Belfour wouldn't even finish his career in Chicago. The Hawks were worried that he wouldn't re-sign with the team, so they shipped him off to San Jose for 3 players I personally never heard of until I Googled them: Ulf Dahlin, Michael Sikora, and Chris Terreri. Terreri was put in the very tough position of trying to fill Belfour's shoes in net, and he never got close to reaching Belfour's milestone achievements. Blackhawk fans kept asking themselves, is this team cursed? The 1999 Stanley Cup Final pitted Belfour against Hasek as the Dallas Stars took on the Buffalo Sabres. Belfour eventually won the cup over Hasek in the series, although Hasek won more cups than the Eagle once he began playing for the Red Wings. The Blackhawks managed just 1 more Western Conference Finals appearance with Belfour in net, and they wouldn't get back to the Western Conference Finals until last season. No one ever wishes someone to die, but success seemed to reach the Blackhawks once Bill Wirtz passed away from complications of cancer on September 26, 2007. His son, Rocky Wirtz, took over the team, and during their first season with Rocky as the CEO, the Hawks finished above 500 for the first time in 6 years. With John McDonough as the president and Joel Quenneville as the head coach, the Hawks made it back to the playoffs and finished in the Final Four. The Red Wings once again got in their way and easily took care of the Hawks 4-1 during the 2009 Western Conference Finals. Entering the 2009-10 season, the Hawks decided they need a veteran forward who could score goals and match up against their biggest rival, the Detroit Red Wings. Marian Hossa signed with the Blackhawks, giving the Hawks a formidable 1-2-3 punch on line 1 on Patrick Kane, Jonathan Taves, Marian Hossa. That is, if they ever needed to use all 3 guys on the power play. The Hawks were a tough team to beat in 2010, and they finished just 1 point shy of the Western Conference leading Sharks, but the Hawks were the better team in the Western Conference Finals and swept the Sharks to make it to the Stanley Cup Final. Their opponent was an unlikely one, the Philadelphia Flyers. Entering the playoffs as a 7th seed, the Flyers had little title aspirations, but after the top-seeded Capitals were stunned in round 1 to the 8th-seeded Canadiens, there was new hope in Philly. The Flyers looked dead in the water when they trailed 3-0 in the Eastern Conference semifinals, but Simon Gagne returned for Game 4, and they definitely needed him as Gagne scored in overtime to force a Game 5. Brian Boucher was excellent as the Flyers starting goalie during Game 5, but he had to leave the game early due to knee injuries. As such, Michael Layton finished off Game 5 as the Flyers' new goalie and preserved the 4-0 shutout. Layton then got the start in Game 6 as expected, and he made the most of his opportunity by being perfect through 59 minutes until the Boston Bruins scored late. It was still a 2-1 win for the Flyers, and wouldn't you know it, the Flyers had a chance to win Game 7 and come back from an insurmountable 3-0 deficit. The Bruins actually led 3-0 in Game 7 at the TD Garden in Boston, but they simply couldn't avoid a significantly embarrassing collapse. James Van Riemsdyk, who didn't score a single goal in the playoffs prior to tonight, netted a very important goal late in the first period to give his teammates new life and ending the shutout attempt. The Flyers then scored 3 more unanswered goals to win a surprising 4-3 Game 7 over the Bruins, becoming just the 3rd team in NHL history to come back from a 3-0 series deficit. In fact, this had only been done once in any other American professional sport besides hockey. The Boston Red Sox defeated the New York Yankees 4-3 during the 2004 American League Championship Series. And now the Flyers are back in the Stanley Cup Final for the first time since 1997, looking for their first championship since 1975. The 1997 Stanley Cup Final was very interesting since it pitted the Flyers against the Red Wings, with both teams being in the Eastern Time Zone. The Flyers got swept in that series, with fans questioning if the franchise made the right decision all those years ago when they traded for former #1 overall draft pick Eric Lindros. Lindros scored just once in that series against the Red Wings, and it cost the Flyers a lot just to acquire him. They sent the Quebec Nordiques 6 players, 2 first-round picks, and $15 million in cash for only Lindros. The Nordiques eventually moved to Colorado, with the future Hall of Famer in Forsberg helping the Colorado Avalanche win 2 Stanley Cup titles. What did Lindros contribute? Just 1 goal in his lone Stanley Cup final, and his constant bad luck of suffering concussions, he suffered 4 during his career in Philly, inevitably led to him being traded to the New York Rangers. The Lindros trade was a huge gamble for the Flyers, and it cost them much-needed role players they probably could have used during their playoff runs in the late 90s and early 2000s. However, the Flyers probably wouldn't have made it to the finals without Lindros in the lineup, so there's a lot of give and take when debating if Philly should have traded for the future Hall of Famer. In a weird twist of fate, the Rangers tried to trade for Lindros, which would have included goalie Mike Richter. Richter was huge down the stretch for the Rangers during the 1994 Stanley Cup Final, which they won, so Rangers fans are probably very happy with the trade with Philly that was finalized prior to the Rangers calling up the Nordiques. But the Flyers are finally back in the Stanley Cup Final, in large part due to the Flyers getting defenseman Chris Pronger in another blockbuster deal with Anaheim. It cost Philly 2 players and 2 first-round picks. History tells us that the Flyers love sacrificing the future for winning now, but this time around, it has paid its dividends in a big way. Pronger's 14 playoffs assists have allowed the Flyers to be 1 goal away from forcing a Game 7 in Chicago, their closest to a title in 35 years. The trade for Pronger was definitely an immediate success. Layton's 3 shutouts in the Eastern Conference Finals prove that he deserves to be in the league, but is he a franchise goalie? Not so much. One of the reasons that the Blackhawks are a goal away from the title is Layton can't recreate his magic from the previous round. In fact, Boucher relieved him in Game 2 and Game 5 due to erratic play, but head coach Peter Laviolette decided to stick with Layton in this pivotal Game 6. And to be honest, the Flyers felt comfortable about tonight. Both of their wins in the series were at home, and with the Hawks being led by 2 players under the age of 25 in Kane and Taves, they don't have a lot of experience in this pressure situation. It's up to former #1 overall draft pick Patrick Kane and Captain Taves to finish off the Flyers. Otherwise, it's back to Chicago for a winner-go-home Game 7, and Blackhawk fans know all too well how that panned out back in '71. Allstar knows all too well how this Blackhawks team has stunk over the years as he joined the team during the 2006 season. Remind their fans of Broad Street bullies who won back-to-back cups in the 70s, or will the Blackhawks finally appease the hockey gods and give their fans a much-deserved championship? It's golden goal format, and Patrick Kane has the puck deep in the Flyers' end. Welcome to a moment. Thanks for watching our NHL version of Rewinder. Make sure to comment below and subscribe to Sports Broadcast Solutions.
It's October 26th, 1991, Game 6 of the '91 World Series at the Metronome in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It's an unlikely matchup between the Atlanta Braves and the Minnesota Twins. The Twins won the World Series just 4 years ago, but like the Braves, they weren't supposed to be here. Kirby Puckett is at the plate, and you might know what happens next on this 2-1 pitch. And for that, I'll give you a virtual high five due to your ability to use the internet. But for those of you who don't want to cheat via Wikipedia or BaseballReference.com, let's get in that DeLorean and crank it to 88 miles per hour. It's time to travel back in time, or as SB Nation would say, let's rewind. The 1991 Fall Classic was far from straight chalk when it comes to the gambling mindsets of sports bettors. According to TampaBay.com, the Braves were once 250-1 odds-on favorites to win the World Series. If you bet $100 on the Twins in spring training, that was a great bet, as they were 100-1 odds to win it all. In fact, both teams finished in last place in their respective divisions the year prior. The Braves were actually in the National League West back then, and although they'd be dominant in the later part of the decade, the beginning of the 1990s wasn't friendly to Bobby Cox's team. The first year of the 90s saw the Braves finish the regular season at just 65-97, but general manager John Schuerholz saw something in Cox, and the fiery skipper became the head honcho on June 23, 1990, replacing Russ Nixon. It didn't lead to an improvement when it came to wins. The Braves were 25-41 when Nixon received the pink slip, and they finished the year 26 games out of first with Cox as the manager. Still, the players seemed to respond to the 50-year-old skipper the next season. The Braves were notably better, but a World Series appearance still seemed very unlikely on July 11th. A .500 record at just 40-40, the Braves were on the cusp of being sellers at the trade deadline. But then something happened. The Braves just refused to lose. An incredible 54-28 finish to the season saw the Braves 4 wins away from a National League pennant. They clinched the division on a second-to-last of the season, with the Braves remaining in first place from September 20th until the clincher on October 5th. The stunned Los Angeles Dodgers couldn't believe it. How could a Braves team who were at 500 practically halfway through the season keep them from an NL pennant? As for the Braves themselves, next came the Pittsburgh Pirates, led by Silver Slugger Barry Bonds. If the regular season was crazy enough for Atlanta sports fans to start believing, the 1991 National League Championship Series was something we probably won't ever see again. 4 shutouts took place in the series, including 3 1-0 shutouts. The Pirates were the heavy favorites to advance to the World Series. A 98-win team, the Pirates won the division by an easy 14 games. John Smiley won 20 games for the Buccos, the last time a Pirates pitcher won 20 games during the 20th century. Doug Drabick was the reigning NL Cy Young Award winner, and with Bombs and Bobby Bonilla still in the primes of their careers, there's no way that Bobby Cox's Cinderella story could still wear their gold slipper going into the championship round, right? Wrong. Tom Glavine, the 1991 NL Cy Young winner, was on this Braves team, but he actually underperformed in the series. Game 1 went to the better-seeded Pirates, a well-deserved 5-1 win to the higher seed as the Pirates scored the game's first 5 runs. Glavine was the loser in this one by walking 3 batters and giving up 4 unearned runs. Atlanta's David Justice hit a leadoff homer in the top of the 9th inning, but it was just too late as the Pirates took a 1-0 series lead. The Braves found a way to split the first 2 games at Three Rivers Stadium, with Steve Avery leading the way to a 1-0 shutout. Game 3 was all Braves. A 10-3 win as John Smoltz was the much better pitcher in the Braves' first home playoff game in nearly a decade. But games 4 and 5 were won by the Pirates, including a seemingly back-breaking 1-0 shutout victory in Atlanta. Zane Smith led the way for Pittsburgh in Game 5, and with their backs against the wall, Atlanta had to somehow win both games on the road to make their first World Series since arriving in the capital of Georgia. The Braves just wouldn't let their dream season die. Not only that, but they held the Pirates scoreless for the last 22 innings of the series. From the top of the 6th in Game 5 until the final out in Game 7, the Pittsburgh Pirates couldn't muster a single run. A 1-0 crushing defeat in Game 6 saw the Pirates 1 win away from elimination, and after the Braves scored 3 runs in the top of the first inning during Game 7, the Buccos offense went ice cold down the stretch. Steve Avery stole the show. He didn't give up a single run in his 2 starts. 16 2/3 innings pitched for the young stud on the mound, and he of course won NLCS MVP. But the Braves weren't the only weird newcomer to the postseason party. Just 4 years earlier, the Minnesota Twins were World Series champions. Gone were the days of Harmon Killebrew and Rod Carew, but these new Twinkies were still fan favorites. Kirby Puckett, a former junior college player, led the charge in center field. But interestingly enough, not a single player on the Twins had 100 runs batted in during the 91 regular season. The Twins weren't a team known for power. Puckett only drilled 15 homers in 1991, a huge contrast to the 1987 squad when he hit 28 homers. The 1991 Twins were scrappy, annoying, and hard to beat. Designated hitter Chili Davis was the only Twin with over 25 home runs, and the lone 20-game winner on the pitching staff wasn't future Hall of Famer Jack Morris. That distinction went to Scott Erickson. Still, the Twins cruised to an AL West Division title by commanding 8 games. And after dismantling the Toronto Blue Jays in just 5 games during the ALCS, it looked like the Twins had the upper hand for the 1991 World Series crown. After all, the Braves barely squeezed into the World Series, while the Twins looked like the far more superior team. But the World Series started anyway, with Cox proving to the rest of the world that he would become one of the game's all-time great managers. Down in an early 0-2 hole, the Braves looked like a completely different ball club when they flew back to Atlanta. 3 straight victories at the old Fulton County Stadium, including a 14-5 convincing victory over the seemingly unbeatable Twins, put the Twins in major trouble. Just like that, Tom Kelly's squad looked all but done. The problem was, they weren't. Plus, they still got to go back home for Games 6 and 7, assuming they could force a Game 7. The 1991 World Series became one of the all-time greats, and Game 6 was no exception to the rule. The Twins struck first with 2 ball players crossing home plate in the bottom of the first inning. The Braves seemed to have the momentum back after Terry Pendleton hit a 2-run bomb in the top of the 5th. Determined to play Game 7 at the old Hubert H. Humphrey Metrodome, the Twins got the lead back in the bottom of the frame. And after battling to a leadoff walk, Don Gladden stole second base. A couple of flyouts later, including the sacrifice fly by Puckett, gave the Twins the lead back. But don't count these Braves out. Up by a run in the top of the 7th, Kelly allowed starting pitcher Scott Erickson to run back out there. But after a leadoff single to Mark Lemke, Kelly had no choice but turned to Mark Guthrie. Guthrie started off okay with a strikeout to Jeff Blauser, but then location and accuracy came to bite him in the butt. A walk to Lonnie Smith, including a can't-have-it wild pitch, put Kelly in a tough spot. Guthrie was able to jam Terry Pendleton, but with Chuck Knobloch playing a double-play depth, Pendleton's little nubber got enough of the AstroTurf to give him ample time to claim the infield single. Just like that, we have bases loaded, and Kelly was forced to go to the bullpen.
2005, the Chicago White Sox are hosting Game 2 of the World Series against the Houston Astros. Tied 6-6 in the bottom of the 9th inning. Leadoff hitter Scott Podsednik is at the plate, and while Podsednik went to the All-Star game earlier this season, Sox manager Ozzie Guillen is definitely not anticipating a walk-off home run finish to this particular ballgame. The Sox lead 1-0 in the series, but a potential 2-0 series edge, or the game potentially going into extra innings, is just a taste of the drama both teams have experienced lately. This is just the second World Series game in Astros franchise history. And for the White Sox, last night's Game 1 win was the ball club's first World Series victory since Game 5 of the 1959 Fall Classic. Houston, meanwhile, is still looking for its first ever World Series win. Therefore, a lot is riding on this 2-1 pitch. So let's rewind. Scott Podsednik, sometimes known simply as Scotty Pods by fans of the Southsiders, is starting to become a fan favorite. The White Sox had a formidable lineup of Carlos Lee, Bagley Ordonez, Paul Konerko, and Frank Thomas going into the 2005 offseason, but after finishing in second place to those pesky Minnesota Twins in 3 consecutive seasons, General Manager Ken Williams pulled off one of the biggest blockbuster trades in Chi Sox history by dumping Lee's contract to the Milwaukee Brewers and acquiring the speedster in Podsednik. Just like that, Williams dumped a 30-homer, 100 RBI guy for the relatively unknown commodity in Podsednik. The theory was Podsednik would help bring a new dimension of speed and small ball mentality to the Sox. Williams wanted to change the direction of the franchise with a speedy and up-and-coming ball player who could frustrate opposing pitching staffs on the base pass, similar to what the Twins were doing with Lou Ford, Torrey Hunter, Luis Rivas, and Christian Guzman. And Williams' bold trade turned out to be a great one. The first half of the season saw Podsednik steal 4 bases in a game on 2 different occasions, with Scotty Pods making the All-Star team as the final vote candidate. His batting average hovered around 300, and he stole 59 bases for the Sox. The trade was still good for Milwaukee, as Lee finished with a career-high 32 home runs and 114 RBI. But the Brewers missed the playoffs in 2005, while the Palehosers won just their 4th division title since playoff reformatting went into effect during the late 60s. Williams actually changed the entire White Sox lineup. Frank Thomas was out most of the 2005 regular season and postseason due to a bone fracture. Ordonez signed with the Tigers during the 05 offseason. Jermaine Dye became the everyday right fielder, and Williams brought in 30-year-old Japanese rookie Tadahito Iguchi become the everyday second baseman and 2-hole hitter. Iguchi became a key cog in the Sox lineup, with his 3-run homer in Game 2 of the ALDS against the Boston Red Sox being the climax of a very impressive 3-game sweep at the hands of the defending champions. Everything was different about this White Sox team. The mantra became win or die trying, as White Sox small ball, or Aussie ball, as was sometimes referred to in the Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Tribune, became the team's identity. Instead of Lee cranking dingers to left field, Podsednik would steal bases, Iguchi would get him over, and Jermaine Dye or Paul Konerko would drive him in with the crucial RBI hit. However, the average baseball fan wanted to call it. The Sox overcame the odds and stopped the Twins from winning a 4th straight AL Central crown. But the White Sox actually had to go toe-for-toe, tick-for-tack with the Cleveland Guardians to see who would represent the AL Central in the playoffs. It was a crazy year for the Sox. By August 1st, the Palehosers were up 15 games on the Cleveland Guardians. Incredibly, that lead became a meager 1.5 games as the Guardians went 19-8 during the month of August. A turning point for the White Sox came on September 20th against Cleveland. Joe Creedy's walk-off home run in the bottom of the 10th increased the White Sox division lead to 3.5 games. It was a 2-win swing, and it gave the White Sox enough breathing room for them to hold for the division crown.
Even more interesting, Cleveland missed out on the postseason entirely after its amazing run. The Guardians/Indians lost 6 of their last 7 games, allowing the Red Sox to sneak in as the wild card representative. It was a tough pill to swallow for Indians fans, as this team went from a 48-47 record to almost upending the Sox for the division pennant. Instead, the Indians missed out on the playoffs for yet another year, their 4th straight season without a playoff appearance. The White Sox cruised past the aforementioned Red Sox, but the ALCS was a slightly different story. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim won Game 1 in Chicago, with Pacetic and catcher A.J. Pierzynski getting caught on stolen base attempts. Game 2 was a game to remember, as it was just a 1-1 tie with 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. With 2 strikes on him, Pierzynski swung at a splitter out of the strike zone. The White Sox starting (9th, 2013). The Sweet 16, otherwise known as the regional semifinals, is taking place between the Kansas Jayhawks and Michigan Wolverines. In a surprising twist, the lower-seeded Wolverines are up by 2 points on the number 1 seeded Jayhawks. It's definitely not shocking that the Wolverines are currently winning. Rather, it's surprising for anyone who turned off the game when Kansas led by 11 points late in the second half. Not only did Kansas blow a double-digit lead during regulation, but their odds of winning were over 99% with under 3 minutes to play. That doesn't matter anymore, though, and with under 10 seconds left in overtime, Kansas needs a practical miracle shot to force double OT. Even crazier, they could win at the buzzer with a 3. So can the Jayhawks pull off the incredible full-court drive to the basket to tie things up at 87? We'll find out in 10 short seconds. But for now, let's see how we got here. Kansas blew a huge lead earlier tonight, but how? To answer that question, we need to rewind. Remember when I said it's not shocking that Michigan is beating Kansas? Well, for starters, SB Nation only gave Kansas a 2-point edge. A 2-point spread is not exactly a comfortable betting edge for gamblers, even though Kansas is 11-2 against the spread in its last 13 games. This front court matchup also features the National Player of the Year in Trey Burke. Burke, who actually grew up in Columbus, decided to become the arch enemy of the Buckeye faithful and instead attended the much-hated Michigan Wolverines. Burke manned the point for the Wolverines, and even as a true freshman, head coach John Beilein felt comfortable putting him on the court for over 1,200 minutes of game action. His 1,227 minutes logged ranked 2nd in school history. However, Burke's Wolverines finished the 2012 postseason by losing in the first round to the Ohio Bobcats. To be fair, Ohio was a great team in 2012 who ended up finishing in the Sweet 16. Still, alumni from Ann Arbor began wondering if Michigan would ever return to the heights of the Fab Five era. For all of those non-history fans out there, Michigan was once a basketball king for college hoopers. Future Hall of Famer Chris Webber led the Fab Five recruiting class, and Jalen Rose played for the Wolverines as well. Incredibly, future NBA player Juwan Howard was the 3rd best player during the Fab Five era. The Fab Five got its name since all 5 of its starting players were top 25 national recruits. It seemed like the only detriment to the era was not winning a national title game, and Webber became the laughingstock of college basketball when he infamously called a timeout when his team no longer had one during the title game against North Carolina. But the major problem of the Fab Five was the scandal following it. Notably, U of Michigan booster Ed Martin made payments to players by laundering money through an illegal gambling operation. It was such a huge scandal that the FBI, IRS, NCAA, Big Ten Conference, and United States Department of Justice all had to investigate the matter. The scandal inevitably led to Steve Fisher being fired from the program in 1997, although the NCAA investigation didn't find him culpable of any wrongdoing. In total, 4 former players from the Michigan basketball program, Maurice Taylor, Robert Traylor, Lewis Bullock, and Webber, collected a grand total of $616,000 from Martin. The scandal forced Michigan to vacate its appearances in back-to-back national championship games, and Webber even got charged for perjury during the trial of Ed Martin's illegal gambling operations. The NBA suspended the Sacramento Kings power forward 3 games during the 2002 season, with the University of Michigan disassociating itself from him until later this year in 2013. The Wolverines deleted Webber's records from the basketball program's records book,
All because Weber admitted to giving Martin about $38,000 in cash during his amateur status as a student athlete at Michigan. Weber admitted that the $38K was in reference to repayment for expenditures Martin did on his behalf. Because of the scandal, Michigan became known as the program the best college basketball team that money can buy, and it hurt their recruiting pitch towards players for several years. The basketball team missed the NCAA tournament every year from 1998 to 2006, but when Beeline became the head coach in 2007, things started to turn around rather quickly. In 2009, the Wolverines returned to the tournament and even upset Clemson during round 1. In 2011, Michigan barely lost to Duke during the round of 32 by a final score of 73-71. The Wolverines weren't quite back yet, but at least the stench of the Fab Five was slowly but surely going away. The stench of the Fab Five was similar to that of a skunk, though. The Wolverines lost 1 scholarship for 4 consecutive seasons due to the scandal, and they even had to vacate their involvement in the 1997 NIT and 1998 Big Ten tournaments. The best way to get people to forget about Ed Martin and the Wolverines, well, Al Davis said it best.
Just win, baby.
Just win, baby. The 2012 Wolverines began to start doing that consistently. A 13-5 finish in conference play saw the Wolverines, Buckeyes, and Michigan State Spartans all record the same record. It was the first Big Ten title of any kind for Michigan since 1986. But the sting of last year's first-round exit to Ohio was still prevalent for many of the returning players. Whether the Wolverines were playing with a vengeance during the fall and winter of 2012 is unclear, but whatever the reason, Michigan was at one point the #1 team in the nation, according to the Associated Press. They started the year at 21-2 and seemed to be unbeatable. In fact, the Wolverines started the year at 16-0. The Wolverines couldn't figure out Indiana, though, and after getting swept by the Hoosiers during the regular season finale, Michigan entered the 2013 NCAA tournament with a meager Big Ten quarterfinal defeat. Michigan has been playing terribly since their undefeated beginning, but they're also just 10-7 in their last 17 games. Meanwhile, Kansas is 5-0 in its last 5 games, and has only lost once since early February.
Welcome to the post-game show brought to you by Sports Broadcast Solutions, a broadcasting network for everyone. Check us out at sportsbroadcastsolutions.com. I'm Kyle Smith, but that don't matter. This man matters. Alex Deach with a heck of a game. He had a kick return touchdown on a squib kick. Alex, did you think you were going to return it for a touchdown on a squib kick?
I mean, that was the plan always. I went to the right at first, didn't see a hole, ran over to the left, got a little tired, but, you know, I outran the kicker, and it worked out. So,
do you run a play like that in practice, or was that all improvisation?
That was all improvisation. I should have. I mean, I was supposed to follow my blockers on the right. I mean, I got a hole on the left. You know, obviously my blockers did a great job too, but they just had more people on the right side.
What do you guys usually work on squib kicks? Just to go straight up with it, or just kind of take a knee and take the great possession?
You know, if we can, always try to get the possession, but if they're coming in, just dive on it. Make sure we get the ball first. That's always the first priority.
A really impressive output by all the seniors, not just yourself. Absolutely. Were you guys looking forward to this game all throughout practice, not just to win this game, but to do it for your parents as well?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been dreaming about senior night for our whole career, so this was very important. We were looking forward to it since forever, so it was very special.
You guys are just so good running the football. You know, we were joking about it on the broadcast. Do you live for rain? Because you guys don't like to pass the ball that much anyways.
I mean, yeah, we saw it was raining, and we got a little excited because we know, obviously, most teams pass more than us, so we knew that would help us in the long run.
What an impressive drive, 97 yards. What was Jake Petro saying to you guys in the huddle every time you guys were getting a little bit closer and a little bit closer to that end zone?
You know, Jake Petro, he's a great leader. Just every time he says, he just gets everyone back in the huddle, gets everyone set, you know, does a great job at it. Just, you know, keep driving, just keep pushing the ball.
All three facets of the game, offense, defense, and special teams. They score, but then they don't score after that, after it's 14-7, 21 unanswered points. What did head coach Matt Miller talk to you guys in the locker room to make sure you don't give up any more points on the defensive side of the ball?
I mean, you know, obviously we wanted a shutout, but after they scored, coach knew that we had to change something. We just kept going, foot on the gas, as we say. Yeah, I mean, we just knew to keep doing our job.
For people that aren't familiar with the Fenwick-St. Ignatius rivalry, it's coming up next weekend. What is it like?
It's a big rivalry. It's dating back a long time. You know, I don't want to say anything too cocky or anything, but we're definitely looking forward to it. We're definitely looking to beat them, win the conference title. So.
Well, if you win, you get a home playoff game regardless. So are you guys thinking about that, or is just another game, especially a big game against Fenwick, but not really thinking about winning the game to get a home game for the playoffs?
You know, obviously everyone wants a home game for the playoffs, but we are not even focused on the playoffs right now. We're focused on Fenwick and just Fenwick.
All right, well, good luck and have fun with your teammates.
Thank you.
That's Alex Deach, and that does it for our post-game show. So for Max Tama, Marcel Francis, Bob Vilsaway, I'm Kyle Smith signing off, and we'll see you a couple weeks from now for the IHSA playoffs.